staff do much of the preliminary work of preparation with the help of many of the higher types of native races. These Gardens of Eden are so named in honor of Edentia, the constellation capital, and because they are patterned after the botanic grandeur of the headquarters world of the Most High Fathers. Such garden homes are usually located in a secluded section and in a near-tropic zone. They are wonderful creations on an average world. You can judge nothing of these beautiful centers of culture by the fragmentary account of the aborted development of such an undertaking on Urantia. A planetary Adam and Eve are, in potential, the full gift of physical grace to the mortal races. The chief business of such an imported pair is to multiply and to uplift the children of time, but there is no immediate interbreeding between the people of the garden and those of the world. For many generations Adam and Eve remain biologically segregated from the evolutionary mortals, while they build up a strong race of their order. This is the origin of the violet race on the inhabited worlds. The plans for race upstepping are prepared by the planetary prince and his staff, and are executed by Adam and Eve. And this was where your material son and his companion were placed at great disadvantage when they arrived on Urantia. Caligastia offered crafty and effective opposition to the Adamic mission, and notwithstanding that the Melchizedek receivers of Urantia had duly warned both Adam and Eve concerning the planetary dangers inherent in the presence of the rebellious planetary prince, this arch-rebel, by a wily stratagem, outmaneuvered the Edenic pair, and entrapped them into a violation of the covenant of their trusteeship as the visible rulers of your world. The traitorous planetary prince did succeed in compromising your Adam and Eve, but he failed in his effort to involve them in the Lucifer rebellion. The fifth order of angels, the planetary helpers, are attached to the Adamic mission, always accompanying the planetary atoms on their world adventures. The core of initial assignment is usually about 100,000. When the work of the Urantia Adam and Eve was prematurely launched, when they departed from the ordained plan, it was one of the seraphic voices of the garden who remonstrated with them concerning their reprehensible conduct. And your narrative of this occurrence well illustrates the manner in which your planetary traditions have tended to ascribe everything supernatural to the Lord God. Because of this, Urantians have often become confused concerning the nature of the Universal Father, since the words and acts of all his associates and subordinates have been so generally attributed to him. In the case of Adam and Eve, the angel of the garden was none other than the chief of the planetary helpers then on duty. This seraphim, Salonia, proclaimed the miscarriage of the divine plan, and requisitioned the return of the Melchizedek receivers to Urantia. The secondary midway creatures are indigenous to the Adamic missions. As with the corporeal staff of the planetary prince, the descendants of the material sons and daughters are of two orders, their physical children and the secondary order of midway creatures. These material, but ordinarily invisible planetary ministers contribute much to the advancement of civilization, and even to the subjection of insubordinate minorities who may seek to subvert social development and spiritual progress. The secondary midwayers should not be confused with the primary order, who date from the near times of the arrival of the planetary prince. On Urantia, a majority of these earlier midway creatures went into rebellion with Caligastia, and have, since Pentecost, been interned. Many of the Adamic group who did not remain loyal to the planetary administration are likewise interned. On the day of Pentecost, the loyal primary and the secondary midwayers effected a voluntary union, and have functioned as one unit in world affairs ever since. They serve under the leadership of loyal midwayers alternately chosen from the two groups. Your world has been visited by 4 orders of sonship: Caligastia, the planetary prince; Adam and Eve of the material sons of God; Machiventa Melchizedek, the sage of Salem in the days of Abraham; and Christ Michael, who came as the paradise bestowal son. How much more effective and beautiful it would have been had Michael, the supreme ruler of the universe of Nebadon, been welcomed to your world by a loyal and efficient planetary prince and a devoted and successful material son, both of whom could have done so much to enhance the life work and mission of the bestowal son. But not all worlds have been so unfortunate as Urantia. Neither has the mission of the planetary atoms always been so difficult or so hazardous. When they are successful, they contribute to the development of a great people, continuing as the visible heads of planetary affairs, even far into the age when such a world is settled in light and life. 4. The 6 evolutionary races. The race of dominance during the early ages of the inhabited worlds is the Red Man, who ordinarily is the first to attain human levels of development. But while the Red Man is the senior race of the planets, the succeeding colored peoples begin to make their appearances very early in the age of mortal emergence. The earlier races are somewhat superior to the later. The Red Man stands far above the indigo, black race. The life carriers impart the full bestowal of the living energies to the initial or red race, and each succeeding evolutionary manifestation of a distinct group of mortals represents variation at the expense of the original endowment. Even mortal stature tends to decrease from the Red Man down to the indigo race, although on Urantia unexpected strains of giantism appeared among the green and orange peoples. On those worlds having all 6 evolutionary races, the superior peoples are the 1st, 3rd, and 5th races, the red, the yellow, and the blue. The evolutionary races thus alternate in capacity for intellectual growth and spiritual development, the 2nd, 4th, and 6th being somewhat less endowed. These secondary races are the peoples that are missing on certain worlds. They are the ones that have been exterminated on many others. It is a misfortune on Urantia that you so largely lost your superior blue men, except as they persist in your amalgamated white race. The loss of your orange and green stocks is not of such serious concern. The evolution of 6 or of 3 colored races, while seeming to deteriorate the original endowment of the Red Man, provides certain very desirable variations in mortal types, and affords an otherwise unattainable expression of diverse human potentials. These modifications are beneficial to the progress of mankind as a whole, provided they are subsequently upstepped by the imported Adamic or violet race. On Urantia this usual plan of amalgamation was not extensively carried out, and this failure to execute the plan of race evolution makes it impossible for you to understand very much about the status of these peoples on an average inhabited planet, by observing the remnants of these early races on your world. In the early days of racial development, there is a slight tendency for the red, the yellow, and the blue men to interbreed. There is a similar tendency for the orange, green, and indigo races to intermingle. The more backward humans are usually employed as laborers by the more progressive races. This accounts for the origin of slavery on the planets during the early ages. The orange men are usually subdued by the red and reduced to the status of servants, sometimes exterminated. The yellow and red men often fraternize, but not always. The yellow race usually enslaves the green, while the blue man subdues the indigo. These races of primitive men think no more of utilizing the services of their backward fellows in compulsory labor than Urantians would of buying and selling horses and cattle. On most normal worlds, involuntary servitude does not survive the dispensation of the planetary prince, although mental defectives and social delinquents are often still compelled to perform involuntary labor. But on all normal spheres, this sort of primitive slavery is abolished soon after the arrival of the imported violet or Adamic race. These 6 evolutionary races are destined to be blended and exalted by amalgamation with the progeny of the Adamic uplifters. But before these peoples are blended, the inferior and unfit are largely eliminated. The planetary prince and the material sun, with other suitable planetary authorities, pass upon the fitness of the reproducing strains. The difficulty of executing such a radical program on Urantia consists in the absence of competent judges to pass upon the biologic fitness or unfitness of the individuals of your world races. Notwithstanding this obstacle, it seems that you ought to be able to agree upon the biologic disfellowshipping of your more markedly unfit, defective, degenerate, and antisocial stocks. 5. Racial amalgamation, bestowal of the Adamic blood. When a planetary Adam and Eve